Today we have Matt Brown, CFO of Altair Engineering with us.
I've been super lucky in my career because I've had interesting roles.
You're scaling sales and increasing sales.
Automotive companies used to, years and years ago.
Today's episode is sponsored by TaiPai. TaiPai revolutionizes enterprise application development, turning business ideas into robust, data, and AI-driven solutions. With TaiPai's drag-and-drop features providing intuitive user interfaces coupled with what-if scenario capabilities, TaiPai empowers business analysts to make insightful decisions that are fundamental to drive today's dynamic business.
All right, well, welcome back, everyone, to the Reporting Norms. Today we have Matt Brown, CFO of Altair Engineering with us. But before we dive in, I wanted to make sure that you knew that today's episode was sponsored by TaiPai, a visualization software that you can learn more about at our website. If you like this content, please subscribe and give us 4 or 5 stars to make sure you do that. But with that introduction, let's go ahead and get into today's interview with Matt Brown. So we've got, as I said, Matt Brown, a true leader in financial strategy and corporate transformation. As the Chief Financial Officer of Altair Engineering, Matt brings over 2 decades of experience steering the financial course of some of the biggest names in technology, from Norton Lifelock to Symantec, Blue Coat Systems, Netgear, and Brocade. His leadership has been pivotal in financial planning, corporate restructuring, and driving business growth. A certified public accountant and graduate of the Haas Business School at UC Berkeley, Matt's expertise spans everything from enterprise security to high-performance computing and artificial intelligence. Under his leadership, Altair continues to thrive as a global innovator in simulation, data analytics, and AI-driven solutions. We're excited to dive into his insights on financial leadership in the tech industry, the evolving role of CFOs, and what it takes to navigate complex financial strategies in today's digital world. So welcome to the show, Matt.
All right. Well,
great
thank
to see you.
It sounds so great when you say that. And I've always said you've got a radio voice. You know, it sounds so smooth. I appreciate that.
Well,
I'm gonna have you read my bio every time.
Okay, excellent.
Sound like you need to get one.
Be happy to. Matt, why don't we go and start with your journey? You have a pretty interesting journey, a Bay Area native, CFO, all the way to CFO. Tell us about that journey from maybe Berkeley, and maybe some of the key pivotal moments in your career.
Yeah, it's been a really fun ride. So Bay Area native, I feel like there are not too many of us around anymore, actually. But yeah, born and raised here in San Jose, and started my career at KPMG, and then jumped off from there to various tech firms, most of which you mentioned there in my bio, and started sort of on the accounting side. So, you sort of think about this a route to CFO coming from a couple of different angles, sometimes more coming from the accounting side, sometimes coming more from the banking side. I came from the accounting side, having had that background at KPMG. And it's been a really incredible, fun journey, particularly the last few years. It's been pretty exciting.
Yeah. That's great that, becoming the CFO over at Altair, that's really awesome. So over your experience, you've led finance teams at some of the technology firms that I just mentioned. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you encountered, when you're transitioning through these various companies and through those roles, because, they are very different in many regards. And the skills that you bring to bear probably had to, adjust it accordingly. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're right. Every company is at a different stage of their journey, and try to tackle different problems. And so it really depends on what the company is doing, where they're at in their journey, and then what specific issues they're trying to solve. And then you, of course, have to tailor your messaging and your behavior and your goals and collaboration to meet those goals, and to take on whatever issues each company is going and trying to tackle. I've been super lucky in my career because I've had interesting roles pretty much over and over again, where there have been things that have been challenging and difficult, but also extremely fulfilling and rewarding. In my role at Altair is an incredible company. It's probably the most amazing company you've never heard of. Many people have never heard of Altair, but I'd be willing to bet you've probably used a product today that Altair was instrumental in helping design. So what we do is we produce computer-aided engineering software and high-performance computing solutions and data analytics and AI solutions, and we supply those technologies to some of the biggest companies in the world to help go design better products faster. So our biggest verticals, automotive vertical, but also have an aerospace vertical and as well as a bank and financial services and insurance vertical, where we're selling our solutions into those companies. And so if you imagine things as critical as crash testing, right? So automotive companies used to, years and years ago, build a car and crash it into a wall and find out, okay, what broke. You can imagine how expensive and time consuming that was, and incredibly wasteful, by the way. Altair was really instrumental in helping companies move that to a computer aided engineering now solution. So all of that is now being done via computers and via simulation with some very complex math and algorithms, and our solutions go into that. So anything from crash and structural analysis and to aerodynamics and fluids and electromagnetics. And then we're supplying high performance computing solutions and data analytics too, to help round out those solutions. So it's an amazing company.
Yeah.
You mentioned though, sort of, hey, what are some of the unique challenges? Well, the unique challenge for me in coming over to Altair has been known, particularly by the users of our product technologies, as a product company. And that is our focus first and foremost. And our technology is really second to none. But in terms of our profitability, when you looked at the numbers, our margins, our operating margins in particular, were below that of our peers. So our largest competitors and peers had margins that were substantially higher. And so the focus when I came in was, how do we make sure that we continue to supply all the best product technologies, that we continue to grow our top line revenue at or better than where our peers are growing it. In particular, for our software revenue growth, we're focused on double-digit growth there. But how can we achieve better profitability? And we were at the stage where it was sort of right place, right time to really begin focusing on that. And so 4 years ago when I joined, we had a adjusted EBITDA margin of something like 12%. We've taken that all the way up to more than 22% today.
Wow.
So added more than 250 basis points of adjusted EBITDA margin growth year after year for the last 4 years. And it's just been a lot of fun. It's been a ton of fun to be able to do that with the company.
Were you able to achieve that increase in adjusted EBITDA from both revenue increase as well as cost reductions? Or was there it's a pretty good combination of both?
It's a great question. It really starts with revenue growth, and in particular, software revenue growth. And our software revenue carries far higher margins than our services and other revenue do. And so driving that software revenue growth is key to improving that margin. And then, of course, there's the cost discipline that goes with it. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on the right areas. We actually didn't cut costs. We actually just maintained costs and grew costs at a rate that was lower than our revenue growth, effectively just taking advantage of scale that we're starting to see in the business.
I see. So your teams in, let's say, the back office, the accounting and finance team, they're trying to keep up with the front office, your scaling sales and increasing sales. Was the team largely able to leverage either offshoring or AI capabilities to either maintain those costs or, I guess, basically do more with the same or less?
So first of all, it's a combination, but it starts with messaging and making sure that everybody's rowing in the right direction and in the same direction, and that we have a goal that's in mind, and that goal is stated, and you've got buy-in, and everybody sort of understands where we're going, right? And once you get that, you can start to get people on board with what you're trying to do. It's very difficult to get people to buy in to do more work with less resources if you don't explain what the upside is. So it started there, and not just within the finance team, but much broader than that. But then when it came to the finance team, we had a couple of things that I think were working in our favor. First of all, I've got the best team in the world. They're fantastic. So awesome. That helps. But also we moved to an enterprise ERP system. In the past, we had actually been on homegrown systems and had sort of cobbled together different systems, more than a dozen, in fact, where that's a difficult close process when you're trying to do that. Not only does it limit sort of your availability of good, clean data, but it also just administratively is more difficult to close the month end, right? So we moved to an enterprise level ERP system a couple of years ago. That has helped tremendously. And then there's use of more AI sort of technologies, which help gain efficiencies as well. And those are our technologies. So I'm talking about, we're sort of drinking our own champagne. Those are tools that we've been able to use internally that have helped that process tremendously. So if I look at headcount growth for finance over the last 4 years, I think we're flat. Have not added any headcount in the last 4 years. And we've been able to actually rotate certain roles from higher cost countries into lower cost countries as well. So you mentioned offshoring, but yeah, that was something that we did also. So it's this combination of factors basically that allowed us to continue to kind of scale up while maintaining the headcount.
Yeah, interesting. One of the things you just said about getting everybody to row in the same direction, I think that's a challenge for every leader to get everyone aligned with, what the goals are. Any hints, thoughts on what was effective from your perspective on getting alignment, buy-in, and just getting everybody rowing in the same direction?
Yeah, it is absolutely a challenge. And the lesson is you really can't go it alone. I mean, there's, and you can't bulldoze people. I mean, building consensus is probably the most important thing that I do. Building consensus and collaboration. And it starts with the leadership team and the board, but it extends beyond that. And I think the management teams that do it most effectively are the ones that have a very succinct message and goal, a very limited set of goals. You can't have 10 things that you're working on. You have to have a small handful of things that you're working on. And you have to be able to socialize it in a way that everybody in the company understands what we're trying to do and why, and just being relentlessly focused on that. So I was extremely lucky to be able to work with a really great team of leaders who also bought into that message and bought into that goal and understood that there's hard work involved in growing revenue and not adding a lot of costs, effectively doing more with less. But they really deeply understood the upside, right? So it ended up being just a really nice working relationship and experience to be able to see that collaboration across the team and then see that trickle down throughout the company. I think you have to really align your messaging, align your goals, and then align your performance assessment with that. So our team is measured on financial performance, specifically with respect to profitability, which was the goal. And that was critical for us in able to help drive that behavior.
Got it. Did you use adjusted EBITDA as your metric, or basically, or another metric that if you could talk about that, or was it basically just
adjusted EBITDA is our metric. That was the one that resonated most with internally where we wanted to go, but also investors and other analysts. And it ended up being critical to really getting that message out there and making sure that people understood exactly the path that we were on. For me, adjusted EBITDA is it's a great metric because yes, it speaks to profitability, but actually the most important thing to me is cash flow. I mean, at the end of the day, people forget businesses should be measured on the amount of cash that they're going to generate and earnings they're going to generate into the future. And I think some companies have gotten away from that or have forgotten. But it's so simple. I mean, it is cash flow and cash flow earning potential into the future. And so we have our conversion. If you look at sort of the ratio of our free cash flow relative to EBITDA, it's like 90%. So you can adjusted EBITDA is the best closest proxy to just looking at free cash flow and an increase in profitability.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's so simple, right? You don't actually have to have all these fancy metrics. At the end of the day, it's like, well, how much cash are you bringing in? Pretty much it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now you've been with Altair for about almost like 4 years, over 4 years now, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about cash flow for a moment. What were some of the things that you saw or changed when you came in and saw, hey, you know what? I know that cash flow, is very important. I know that adjusted EBITDA is a reasonable proxy of that, but actually seeing, more cash in the coffers and making our treasury department happy. What were some of the things that you thought about or did to help focus the company more on cash generation?
It was a lot of just very detailed, getting into the weeds, digging into vendor information, and really finding anywhere where we could root out waste. So it's not all that glamorous. I mean, so first of all, we had to stand up a better budget and forecasting process, which we did, and got buy-in again across the C-suite on what that process looks like, what the cadence is, being very clear on budgets and targets, which is something that we had improved on quite a bit, over the past few years. And then providing visibility to those leaders to actually go effectively manage that budget, right? So holding people accountable, getting buy-in on what the budgets are, holding people accountable, and then helping them, right? Providing the right tools that they can go look at that data. They have visibility into it, and helping them root out any waste. So looking at different vendor spend, looking at where we can consolidate vendors. We did that quite a bit. And it's just scrapping and scraping. It's like looking under couch cushions to find loose change. I mean, you have to be that tenacious about it, I think, to really get after it. Because at the same time, we're increasing spending in other areas, right? You're having to figure out, well, where are we going to place our bets and make those critical investments? You're increasing spending elsewhere. It means we got to reduce in other areas.
So when you have a spending fork in the road and your FP&A team is working with the business wants to invest in something, and you're trying to make the discernment about, do we place the bet here or not? How does, at a high level, can you describe maybe how your FP&A team leaders, partner with the business to kind of help, sort of drive and come to those decisions about where to place the bets?
Yeah, a lot of time it's a much more strategic conversation. So that conversation is happening, in our C-suite and at that C level, where we're trying to figure out where's the technology going, where do we want to invest for the next 5, 10, 15 years, to make sure that we're continuing to be a leader in technology, but realizing that we can't do everything all the time. And so it's a collaboration with our CEO and our founder and our CTO, president, chief operating officers, getting together and making sure that those folks and those teams are really making the best decision for the business going forward. And sometimes it means you're placing small bets up front and seeing if they've got legs and being willing to adapt and change and pull back if that's not the right area, and then making other big bets elsewhere. But once that strategy is set, then you can start to engage with FP&A about the best way to forecast and go plan. And you can start engaging with procurement about, okay, we decided to move in this direction. Go get us the best possible price you can, right? Really, don't make it easy on some of the vendors.
Don't make it easy on the vendors.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, makes sense. Wow. So when you think about joining the company 4 years ago, Gen AI wasn't really around, how has sort of the evolution of, AI technology come into sort of the strategic discussion that you just described?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So Altair has been incorporating AI technologies for a number of years, way before AI was cool, and everybody was talking about it with these large language models.
Got it.
Altair was doing it via machine learning and some of our other products, and we've got data analytics products that have been doing that as well in low code, no code environments. Now everybody is talking about AI, and AI means something very different depending on who you're talking to and exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So when we think about building in AI into our products, that's something that we're used to doing. We've been doing for a long time. And it's things that effectively make our products better at doing what they've already been doing. So we have, for example, we've got a module within our technology called Shape AI, which will automatically recognize a shape as being a shape that you potentially worked with before, pulling in those dimensions and some of the attributes so that it's saving time on data input and analysis. It makes for a faster result. Physics AI is another module. Same thing. You can get AI to do some of the hard work on running simulations, but then you can go do validation runs in the more traditional methods. And again, it just saves time. So we're already building in AI technologies to make us more effective.
Yeah,
but then there's a whole other side of it. You've got the AI for running your business, right? So how are we leveraging Gen AI to be more cost effective? And we're using Copilot or all these other things. That's, I think, we're much earlier in that journey, actually. And I think it's going to be super interesting to see what happens over these next few years on how companies can leverage AI to just make them more cost effective. I have no doubt that that's going to happen. But it's still early days, I think.
I totally agree with you on that. I mean, part of this podcast, the reporting norms, is to explore, how Copilot and OpenAI and agent functionality or agentic AI can be utilized in the back office to really keep up with the front office, because the front office is moving pretty fast. So,
so I think you could have an AI version of yourself, Norm, giving these interviews in the not so distant future. We wouldn't even know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right.
See if you can pass it through.
Quite as interesting. Well, before I get into my last question, Matt, I just wanted to tell our audience again, today's episode is been sponsored by Type I. And if you like this episode and the content that you just heard from Matt, before I ask this last question of him, please do like and subscribe. So I think we've been talking a lot about business, your experience at Altair. I think maybe we'll raise it up to talk a little bit at a higher level, from your role and as you see the CFO role as evolving and changing with new technologies and expectations. Tell us what your view is on how the CFO's role within companies are evolving or will evolve.
Yeah, I think it's been some time now that the CFO role has moved out from being just the sort of bean counter to being a more strategic partner across the business. And I think we're continuing to see that evolution now, which is really fun. It's much more fun to be in some of the strategic decisions and be driving some of that change. So I think that's going to continue to happen. In the CFO role, you can just be a really great evangelist for what the business is doing, what's trying to get done. And the CFO is one of the very few roles in the company that touches everybody else in the company.
That's a good point.
It's very rare. But if you think about the different heads of the different departments, that's really the case with the CFO. We have to regularly interact, of course, with the CEO and the board, but also with HR. There are very financial oriented questions around human resources, and whether it's compliance related or budgeting and forecasting and whatnot. Same is true for legal, same is true for IT, same is true for marketing, and on and on. And so you end up being in a really nice sort of hub spot there as in the role of the CFO. So I think that's going to continue to be true going forward.
That's a great point, Matt. I think next to the CEO, having deep knowledge of everything that's going on in your company, the CFO's got to be just as knowledgeable about all aspects of what's happening with the company, at a very detailed level, because you're looking at the financial health of the organization, across the board. So makes sense. Yeah. Well, any last words, Matt, that you'd like to impart? Any words of wisdom that you'd like to impart to some of our listeners who, listen to this podcast, from experienced CFOs like yourself?
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on the show, and I hope to be, Absolutely. Who knows, maybe I'll be a repeat guest. You can have me on again sometime. We could talk about other topics.
I think that might be possible.
All right.
I think good. That's so.
I would love to do that. But in terms of words of wisdom, I got advice early in my career, and I think it's good advice, which is just be kind, be nice to people. I think that is sometimes overlooked, and even when you disagree with somebody, you can do so in a respectful way. And I think everybody deserves to have that dignity, respect, and kindness more than anything else. Bring in more kindness, and I think that it will go a long way.
Sounds like great advice, Matt. Really want to thank you for your time with us and sharing your knowledge and experiences, with the audience and with me. So thanks again, Matt, and great seeing you.
Yeah, great to see you too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Take care.